Welcome to this module, all focused on the topic of hunger. So if we're looking to lose weight, we need to do two things really. We need to notice that hunger is going to be present to some degree. It's you're not going to completely eliminate it. However, when hunger does occur, what do we need to do when that happens? So we're going to give you some step-by-step guidance on how to reduce hunger as much as possible to get as close to being eliminated as possible, whilst knowing that it is inevitable that if you're aiming to lose weight and you're creating that calorie deficit, you're most likely going to be hungry at some point during your journey. So what to do when that does occur? So to begin with, I've given you a handful of different areas to really hone in on and focus on. So one of the biggest areas is calories just being too low. The total amount of calories that you're consuming or total amount of food that you're consuming is just too restrictive. So just bear in mind that we've mentioned this a number of times throughout this program, but we'd much prefer you to be consistent than try and ramp up the rate of weight loss as high as possible. Now, when the total calorie intakes are too low, of course, this is going to lead to hunger and it's going to be uncomfortable for you. So you're going to be more likely to throw the towel in, aiming for, let's say, losing 3 pounds a week versus losing 1 pound a week and staying consistent with that year around, because you're increasing the likelihood of guaranteeing that you're going to lose 52 pounds this year. Now, it doesn't have to be 1 pound. It could be half a pound. It could be 1 pound, 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. It's completely different for each individual. However, if you're experiencing real sort of 8, 9, 10 out of 10 hunger on a regular basis, then it's most likely that your total calories are too low. So sometimes your calories are where they need to be, but your carbohydrate intakes are just a bit too low. So we can add some carbohydrates in there as well. Sometimes we've got adequate amounts of carbohydrates, but it's just the wrong type of carbohydrates. So if you can refresh your memory from the carbohydrates module that we discussed previously, what we need to be doing is predominantly having your carbohydrate intakes from slow digesting sources and reducing those fast digesting sources, because if it gets digested very quickly, this is going to increase the likelihood of experiencing more hunger and more often. So you could be the case that you're not hitting your protein intakes on a regular basis. Protein is an area of nutrition that keeps you full. It keeps you fuller quicker, for longer. So if you're not hitting your protein recommendations on a day-to-day basis, revisit the protein module and just make sure that that's dialed in. It could be that hydration is the challenge. Sometimes when we're dehydrated and we're not taking on enough fluids, we can feel low on energy, we can feel lethargic, and you just feel as though you just need to reach out for that snack or that energy drink or whatever it might be. And it could be that sensation of hunger that is experienced at the same time. So just making sure that we're staying hydrated as much as possible. When it comes to sleep, your quality and quantity of sleep are both really important. Sleep regulates different hormones that are responsible for hunger. So we do just need to make sure that we're getting between 7 and 9 hours, so probably an average of around 8 hours, and also trying to make sure that the quality of that sleep is where it needs to be too. It could be the case that you have low micronutrient intakes. So if we're consuming lots of processed foods, for example, the quality of your intakes aren't where they need to be. It could be that there's a micronutrient deficiency, and that could potentially be affecting your hunger levels as well. And it could also be the case that your fiber intakes are just a little bit too low as well. So lots of different areas here. And again, we don't expect you to tick every single one of these, but maybe there's 2 or 3 of them where you think to yourself, do you know what? My sleep quantity isn't where it needs to be, and I think that could be contributing to it. I definitely don't stay hydrated as much as I should do, and I feel as though the carbohydrates aren't where they need to be when it comes to the carbohydrate types. So again, just have a little sift through and pick some areas that are most likely going to be applicable to you. So like we said, hunger is going to happen. It's almost inevitable. So when you are hungry, Providing that you've got the quality of your meal where it needs to be, like we discussed a moment ago, making sure that you're hitting your protein intakes, lots of fruit and veg and fibre and micronutrients and so on, you're going to experience hunger anyway at some point. So when it does occur, we need to just be taking a look at having some sort of snack in between those meals, just to tide you over between your meals, so that it's low calorie, high protein and high fibre. And this is going to, number one, not cause a calorie peak. Number two, it's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer between the protein and fibre intakes. And number three, it's going to be successfully, just like we said, tiding you over in between those meals so that you don't feel as though you have to have lots and lots of food before your next meal. So let's say, for example, you have breakfast, lunch and an evening meal. And just in between those meals, there might be a little bit of a period where your hunger creeps up from 2 to 3 to 5 and so on. And it's not really extensive hunger, but you just need something to take the edge off and get you to that next meal. So we've given you lots of different options here, but essentially, like we mentioned, they need to be low calorie, high protein and high fibre. Loads of different options there. And one of the things that I'd like to say is that ideally it needs to be low calorie, just to not interfere with your results if you're having snacks on a regular basis. And then to tick at least one of the other two boxes from high protein and or high fibre, with the gold standard being ticking all of those. So if you take a look in the bottom left-hand corner, there's some crisp bread with cottage cheese and sweet chili sauce. So if we use that as an example, so it could be Ryvita, for example, with some low-fat cottage cheese, and then, like I said, just that little bit of sweet chili sauce just to make it into a beautiful little snack. Something like that is low-calorie, high protein, and high fibre per gram as well. So that's like an excellent snack. We've also got other options like the hard-boiled egg. So there's no fibre in there. However, it's low calorie and high protein. So again, we're just trying to mix and match and tick as many of those boxes as possible. So now you've got the strategies to prevent hunger in the first place to as much a degree as possible. And then when you do feel hungry and you just need to reach out for that little snack in between your meals, now you have the strategies to cure that hunger as well.